You are not in control of your life. Right now, someone you've never met is making your decisions for you. They live inside your mind. They control your reactions. They sabotage your relationships. They make you say things you don't mean. They make you want people you shouldn't want. They make you hate people for reasons you can't articulate. And here's the terrifying part. You think that person is you. They're not. Carl Jung called them your shadow. And in the next 45 minutes, I'm going to show you what it is, how it controls you, and what happens when you finally meet it face to face. Think about the last time you reacted to something before you even thought about it. Someone said something that triggered instant anger. A person walked into a room and you felt immediate distrust. You saw someone succeed and felt envy you couldn't explain. You said something cruel to someone you love and immediately wondered why those words even came out of your mouth. That wasn't you. That was your shadow taking the controls. Most people spend their entire lives controlled by parts of themselves they don't even know exist. They wonder why they keep making the same mistakes, why they keep choosing the wrong partners, why they sabotage themselves right when things are going well, why they're drawn to people who hurt them, why they feel empty inside despite having everything they thought they wanted. The answer is always the same. Your unconscious mind is running the show, and it's operating on programs you didn't write. Programs installed when you were too young to remember. Programs designed to protect you from pain that you've long forgotten about. But here's what makes this dangerous. Your conscious mind thinks it's in charge. Your conscious mind thinks it's making deliberate choices. Your conscious mind builds an entire identity based on the illusion that you know yourself. And you don't, not even close. To understand how your subconscious controls you, you have to understand the architecture of your mind. Most people think consciousness is like the tip of an iceberg. The conscious mind is what you see above the water. The unconscious mind is the massive structure beneath. But that metaphor doesn't capture how vast the difference actually is. Your conscious mind is not the tip of an iceberg. It's the tip of a mountain that stretches down miles into the earth. The visible part is minuscule. The hidden part is incomprehensible in its size. Neuroscience now confirms what Jung intuited a century ago. Your brain is constantly processing information that never reaches consciousness. You see thousands of details every second that you're never aware of. Your brain makes decisions based on patterns it learned decades ago that you don't remember learning. Your limbic system, the ancient part of your brain that handles emotions and survival, is constantly scanning for threats, making judgments, triggering responses, all without a single word reaching your conscious awareness. Scientists have actually measured this. They can predict your decisions before you consciously make them, by up to 7 seconds. Your brain decides, and then your conscious mind catches up and thinks it made the decision. You feel like you chose, but you didn't. Your unconscious mind chose, and your conscious mind is just narrating what already happened. This is the first thing Jung understood that most modern psychology still doesn't fully appreciate. Consciousness is not in control. It's a passenger that thinks it's the driver. Now, here's where it gets complicated. The unconscious mind isn't just one thing. It's not just forgotten memories and automatic processes. It's structured. It's organized. It has patterns. It has a hierarchy. At the deepest level is what Jung called the collective unconscious. This is not your personal unconscious. This is something shared by all humans. It contains archetypes, basic patterns of human experience that have been repeated for thousands of years. The hero, the shadow, the wise sage, the lover. These aren't learned. They're somehow built into the human psyche itself. They show up in myths, religions, and dreams across every culture, separated by continents and centuries. But above that, closer to consciousness, is your personal unconscious. And this is where the shadow lives. Your shadow is not evil. That's the first lie we've been taught. Your shadow is everything about yourself that you've decided is unacceptable. Everything you've been taught to repress. Everything you're ashamed of. Everything you've learned you should hide. But here's what nobody tells you. Your shadow doesn't disappear just because you're not looking at it. The shadow is an unconscious aspect of the personality that the ego resists and projects, creating conflict with it. It can include everything outside the light of consciousness. And while it may contain negative aspects like repressed anger, envy, and greed, it can also contain positive qualities that remain hidden, especially in people with low self-esteem, aspects brought to consciousness through analysis and therapy. Think about how you were shaped. You were born a blank slate. A baby has no shame. A baby has no filter. A baby is pure impulse and instinct and emotion. Then your parents arrived. Then society arrived. Then school arrived. And they all started installing rules. Don't be angry. Don't be selfish. Don't be too ambitious. Don't be too weak. Don't cry. Don't brag. Don't want too much. Don't want the wrong things. Be humble. Be kind. Be good. Every time you violated these rules, you felt pain. Social pain. Shame. Abandonment. Rejection. Your developing brain learned. Certain parts of me are dangerous. Certain parts of me make me unlovable. So I'm going to push those parts away. You literally fractured yourself. You took the parts of you that didn't fit the acceptable image and you shoved them into the darkness. And now those parts don't stop existing. They don't stop being part of you. They just operate in the dark where you can't see them. Jung believed the shadow holds all the things about ourselves that we repress, whether because they are evil, socially unacceptable, harmful to others, or detrimental to our own health. The shadow embodies our inner darkness, the things about ourselves we hide, the damage we experience in our lives but never fully heal. But here's the shocking part. Jung also believed the qualities in our shadow were determined by the things we criticize the most in others. That person who annoys you with their arrogance? You have an arrogant part of you that you've rejected and you're seeing it reflected back. The person whose neediness bothers you? You've denied your own need. The person whose anger scares you? You're terrified of your own rage, so you've locked it away. This is called projection, and it's how your shadow controls your relationships. You meet someone, and something about them instantly bothers you. You think it's about them, but it's not. It's your shadow using that person as a mirror. It's making you see your own rejected self in someone else, and then making you hate them for it. This is how you end up in relationships with people who embody your shadow. You're attracted to them not because they're good for you, but because they represent the parts of yourself you've denied. And then you spend years hating them for being exactly what attracted you to them in the first place. Here's the uncomfortable truth. You don't fall in love with people. You fall in love with your own projected shadow. You see something in them that you've denied in yourself. And because you've denied it, it feels exotic. It feels powerful. It feels like they have something you don't. But they don't. They just have the permission to access parts of themselves that you've locked away. And that's why the relationship usually fails. Because eventually, when the infatuation fades, all you can see is the shadow you've projected. And you hate them for it. You hate them for having parts of you that you're too afraid to claim. Let me show you exactly how this works in your daily life. Your shadow doesn't speak. It acts. Your brain makes decisions unconsciously, and this can be predicted even up to 7 seconds before you consciously make the decision. Your conscious mind always catches up after the fact and thinks it chose. You meet someone in a social situation. Within the first 7 seconds, your shadow has already decided whether you trust them or not, has already decided whether you're attracted to them or not. Your conscious mind then spends the next hour collecting evidence that confirms what your shadow already decided. And it feels like a conscious choice. But it wasn't. You get triggered. Someone says something, and instant rage rises up. Unconscious influences operate when the effects of stimulus processing happen without awareness. What one perceives directly influences what one does, with a tight automatic connection between perception and behavior. Your conscious mind didn't choose anger. Your shadow did. Your shadow identified a threat based on patterns learned years ago, and it prepared your body for combat before your conscious mind even registered what was said. Your conscious mind then scrambles to create a narrative that justifies the anger. They were being rude. They were trying to manipulate me. They said it in a condescending tone. Maybe they did, but you would have reacted with rage either way because your shadow was already prepared. Here's the mechanism. Your shadow stores everything. Every humiliation, every rejection, every moment you felt powerless, every time you were told you were too much or too little. Your shadow learned these experiences as threats, and now it's constantly scanning your environment for similar threats. The moment it detects one, even if it's just a tone of voice that reminds it of someone who hurt you, it triggers a response designed to protect you the way it couldn't protect you back then. This is why people with childhood trauma are often overly reactive. Their shadow is hypervigilant. It's always on high alert. Someone can't even look at them the wrong way without triggering a cascade of defensive responses. But everyone has a shadow. Everyone has rejected parts. Everyone is reactive in their own way. The only difference is the degree. And here's what makes it especially insidious. Your shadow works through your body. The limbic system governs emotions, memories, and instinctual behaviors, driving unconscious influences over decisions based on past emotional experiences. You feel your reactions as physical sensations. Your chest tightens. Your throat closes. Your face gets hot. And because these sensations feel real, you believe they're telling you the truth about the situation. But they're not. They're telling you the truth about your past. Your shadow is literally haunting you using your own body as the instrument. But there's something even more dangerous happening. Your shadow doesn't just control your reactions in the moment. It controls your choices, the people you pick, the jobs you pursue, the places you go, the things you create. All of it is partly orchestrated by parts of yourself you don't acknowledge. And this is where the real tragedy happens. Your shadow has a primary job: protect you from pain. But the problem is it uses strategies that worked when you were 5 years old, when you were powerless, when you had no other options. Now you're an adult with resources and capability, but your shadow is still operating from that ancient programming. If you experienced neglect as a child, your shadow will sabotage relationships right when they're becoming intimate, because intimacy feels dangerous. It learned that getting close meant getting hurt, so it pushes people away. You consciously want the relationship. Your conscious mind is making all the right moves, but your shadow is working in the background, creating distance, finding faults, making you say the wrong things at the critical moment. If you experienced humiliation, your shadow will sabotage success. Just when you're about to step into something bigger, just when you're about to be seen, your shadow will trigger anxiety or self-doubt, or you'll do something that makes you fail. Because success means being visible, and being visible means being humiliated. So your shadow sabotages before it can happen. If you experienced abandonment, your shadow will make you cling to people who can't really be there for you. You'll choose unavailable partners. You'll stay in situations where you're not valued, because at least you're familiar with the pain. Your shadow would rather have familiar pain than risk the unknown. A man bungles his own life and the lives of others, yet remains incapable of seeing how much the tragedy originates in himself. It is an unconscious factor which spins the illusions that veil his world, and the operation spins a cocoon which in the end will completely envelop him. This is the heartbreaking part. Your shadow is not your enemy. It's your protector. It's trying to save you from the pain that hurt you before. But it's using outdated information and outdated strategies, and it's making you small to keep you safe. The problem is that small is not safe. Small is a slower death. The only way to reclaim control of your life is to make the unconscious conscious. Jung called this shadow work, and it's uncomfortable because it requires you to look at the parts of yourself you've been running from, the parts you've deemed unacceptable, the parts you've been pretending don't exist. Shadow work is the process of making the unconscious conscious, and through this we gain awareness of our unconscious impulses and can then choose whether and how to act on them. When you do this work, several things happen. First, you stop being controlled by your triggers, because you're no longer blindsided by them. You see them coming. You understand why they're happening. You can pause. You can choose a different response. Your conscious mind finally gets some actual agency. Second, you reclaim the energy that's been locked away in your shadow. All the energy you've been using to repress certain parts of yourself becomes available. You become more creative, more capable, more fully alive. Third, your relationships fundamentally shift because you stop projecting your shadow onto other people. You stop choosing partners who embody your trauma. You stop hating people for having parts of yourself you've denied. You see people as they actually are instead of as mirrors for your wounds. But here's the hard truth. This work is not easy. Only less than 5% of people ever reach mature psychological development, and integrating the shadow is critical to achieving mature adulthood. Most people would rather live controlled by their unconscious than do the work of integration, because the unconscious is familiar. The unconscious doesn't require them to change. The unconscious lets them stay the victim of their own mind. Right now, there's a part of you that you've rejected. You know what it is. You know the shame you carry about it. You know how you've tried to hide it. You know who you'd be if you actually claimed it instead of repressing it. And you're terrified. But that terror is the only thing keeping you small. That terror is the only thing keeping you controlled. That terror is the price you pay every single day for pretending you're someone you're not. Jung didn't study the shadow because he was interested in pathology. He studied it because he understood that you can't become whole without integrating every part of yourself. The light and the dark, the acceptable and the unacceptable, the parts you're proud of and the parts you're ashamed of. That's not healing. That's maturity. Most people never get there. They live their entire lives in fragmentation. Part of them publicly, part of them hidden, part of them controlling the rest. But there's another way, a way where you're no longer divided, where your shadow doesn't control you because you've integrated it, where you're no longer running from parts of yourself, where you're finally, actually, in control. The first step is seeing it, really seeing it, not as evil, not as something to destroy, but as a wounded part of yourself that's been trying to protect you all along. Once you see it, you can finally begin the real work.